Hey everybody, welcome back to Why Are You Afraid? The podcast. I wanted to give a quick disclaimer before this episode starts and let you guys know that this episode's going to be a little less organized and structured than my normal episodes. I did have a topic plan for the month of May. Obviously, this episode's coming out quite late. I wanted to give more of an honest message, and so I decided to kind of just talk and see where things took me this episode. I wanted to talk about struggles of just being a Christian and feeling disconnected, like spiritually and so on, and just give some advice on how to cope with that and how to get through it, and just give my personal 2 cents experience and whatnot. However, that topic plan that I had for the month of May is still a great topic idea that I do plan on talking about at another date. Also, for more information, you can find it in the description of these episodes. For those that don't know, I actually do give a lot of information, important information that I sometimes don't mention in the episode itself, so make sure to be checking the descriptions for every episode I upload. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you guys very soon. Hey guys, welcome back to Why Are You Afraid? The podcast. Today, I honestly wanted to do something a little different. The reality. The real reality. That's what I want to talk about. And it's lack of engagement, it's being distant, feeling far, or just not even really engaging in general with God or the Bible, even if it's been like a few weeks. Which for me, that's been the case. Sometimes, Christianity and being a Christian isn't perfect. Not every day you're going to be in your Bible. And some days you're not going to feel super spiritual, and other days you are. And that's really the reality of things, and that's the reality I want to talk about, because it's the reality that's actually really shamed upon often for reasons that I don't really understand, because we're all humans. It's very abnormal. I think people in general have a tendency to denormalize people who have faith or have a certain religion or, I don't know, have a certain moral. And people have the tendency to just see the person who has this certain moral or has this certain religion and view them as different, or I don't know if I said different already, or view them on some kind of pedestal, whether that's a high pedestal or a low pedestal. Who knows? Everyone's different. But I think people kind of forget that morals aside, religion aside, race aside, at the end of the day, we all bleed red. We're all humans, and we all sin. We all make mistakes. We all do bad things. We all need to eat. We all need to breathe. We all need to sleep. And I think it's really easy to just get away from those facts. So I want to encourage you today by reminding you that trying to run away from whatever you're going through, emotionally, physically, trying to, expect the problem to fix by distracting yourself, or to just not face whatever you're going through in general, is not going to change anything, I promise you. And people just want to quickly run away from, God, or it's like, it's been a while since I read the Bible or whatever. Let me go even further from God. Let me just not pray to him or talk to him anymore because, he's upset with me, which is not true, for the record. He's not upset with you. But people just tend to run away from whatever things they're going through, and sometimes when you're going through hard things, it means you even run away and just, I don't know, lose contact with the people who mean most to you, whether that be family or your best friend or your significant other. It's a weird tendency that humans have, where when we're going through the most difficult things or the hardest times we're in, it's the times when we need that person most, or that family most, and we step away from them in the most needed time that we need them. It's funny how that works, but I want to stress the importance of running to God. Whenever we're going through whatever we're going through, running to God is the biggest thing. But no matter what, and you feel guilty, and trust me, there's no reason to feel guilty, because guilt does nothing but waste your time. If God wanted us to live a life on earth feeling guilty and just like dwelling in all the wrong things we did, even if it means, yesterday we lied about our math homework, like No, that's not the life he wanted. Jesus died for a reason, rose 3 days later, was resurrected for a reason, to pay our debts. And that's the whole point. It's called grace. It's a gift of God. It's grace for a reason. You're receiving something without earning it or doing anything to earn it. That's why works and whatever else you can list off, even if it means apologizing, will not get you to heaven. Jesus wanted us to live our lives on earth and make the most out of it. Like, have a ball, dude. Like, have joy, have life, do fun things. But most importantly, spread his word and let other people know about what he did. Other people do not have to live with guilt and carry this, overwhelm of guilt and shame for whatever they've done wrong in their life, whether it be in the present, past, or the future. Jesus wanted us to be free from that, free from the shackles of sin. And that's why he paid for the sins, so we didn't have to live that way. And so we could live eternally with him in heaven. And that's why all we need to do to get to heaven is believe that he did that for us. Moral of the story, guilt does nothing but waste your time, so don't live your life guilty. Because he didn't die for you to be guilty or to feel guilty anymore. He died for you to rejoice and to be cheerful and to let other people know about what happened and what he did, and that all people need to do is believe it and they're saved. A piece of advice I want to give for those who feel distant or are struggling to be consistent, because like I said, consistency is impossible. I mean, it can happen, but consistency only lasts so long, especially when it comes to doing things like reading the Bible and so on and so forth. Things come up, and just don't expect to read the Bible every single day and be happy and thriving, because it's unrealistic to expect that. You're not going to be happy every day, and you're not going to do the same thing every single day all the time. Things are going to happen, and sometimes that relationship with God doesn't mean being consistent with the Bible. Sometimes it just looks like simply praying a short prayer to him before you go to sleep, or talking to him briefly throughout your day about something going on. And that's more than enough. That's all he wants. He wants to hear from you. Now, let me say now, I'm not discouraging the Bible or Bible reading or Bible studies at all whatsoever. Of course, we should read the Bible. We should be in his word all the time. And it's great. We read to know him, to read the word to know him. That's what I like to say. And the Bible, it's a love letter from God. I'm sure you've heard that. I've heard several people say that, and it's true. It was written by man, but spoken through the words of God. He wanted us to hear these words, and it's important to know who he is and to enhance and increase our wisdom of the word and his teachings and how he wants us to live. However, it's really daunting, especially for someone young, to read a big book that has who knows how many pages in it. I can't think off the top of my head, but I mean, not everyone's a reader, Like, I feel like, for me at least, when I first engaged myself and started fully committing myself to, reading the Bible and becoming a true God chaser, and I wanted to really learn more, and I started taking it really seriously to tell other people about the gospel, the Bible was intimidating. The Old Testament is scary looking. At least for me it is. So I want to suggest, if you're new, or even if you aren't new but you're kind of struggling in anything or related to anything I've said, my suggestion is going back to foundationals. And foundationals can kind of be different for everyone, but to me, foundationals look like prayer, because remember, you're talking to your closest friend, the person who knows you best, even more than you know yourself, which is God, and reading something really well. Like, for me, like, maybe reading the book of John, because that was the first book I read. I know it pretty well. So picking something, it doesn't even have to be long. It could be a really short psalm. Picking something it's familiar, it's comfortable, and it's gonna get you in that mindset and start you out even when you are struggling to venture out or, get back into a rhythm, or even just a longing or desire to read the Bible or know about God. Another suggestion I have is gratitude, being thankful, just thinking about the things you're grateful for, what you have, instead of thinking about what you don't have, because I know that's a big habit we tend to have. And that can look like just saying it in your head, talking to God about it, thanking him, Or maybe even writing it down if you're more of a writer and it feels better to get a journal and write down all fancy gratitude, do that. Write down and download your concerns and worries. Don't know if you heard that. Screaming. But downloading your concerns and worries and thoughts helps. Venting and writing your vents, it's really helpful to me. And so if there's maybe an emotional reason or a physical reason that you're even struggling to desire or want to read the word more, sometimes just writing it down and being honest with yourself and God about what's going on really helps clear things up, and He'll speak to you and He'll guide you through it. Writing your goals down, and sometimes it excites me and motivates me to see my end-term goals and what I want to achieve by doing XYZ. So if that's something that motivates you, I suggest doing that. Something I also want to address is distance, and feeling distance in itself is a challenge, because not only are you feeling distant with Jesus and you're like in like a weird floaty space, but you're also kind of disengaged with yourself, and you're kind of creating an unexplainable invisible force with your audience as well, especially if you are one of those people that likes to like publicly talk about your faith or your moral or something that you're passionate about or you believe in, whether it be through media or in person or both, whatever the case is, because it's like you're disconnecting with your audience because you're not connected with yourself and what you are connected to. You're kind of off your Kindle a little bit, if that makes sense. So you feel, for me at least, I kind of feel phony. Like if I'm talking about, God or something, and I myself have felt a little distant or out of it lately, or I've just, like, if I'm talking about a specific thing in the Bible, but it's like I've not even like read it, it's like I feel fake. And I want to be honest, I want to be truthful and like have integrity, especially when I'm talking to people who may know about it, may not know about it. It's like I want to know what I'm talking about. So that's why I make a point to obviously read, and the whole point of every topic I talk about on here is something I've dealt through. Like, you can't talk about these lessons and influence and share advice with other people when you've not been through the experience yourself or learned a lesson to teach you that topic or concept. So that, first and foremost, especially when I'm talking about a verse or something in the Bible, it's something I've read. It's something I know what I'm talking about. It's not like I've just picked anything and then just read it and then moved on. It's like something I've thought about and considered. What does this weigh in on what I'm already talking about? Does this have meaning? And I try to elaborate on what the verse actually means, so my audience is not in the dark and doesn't know what I'm talking about. Same thing goes for like anything else. If you're talking about music or an instrument and you've maybe held the instrument once and then you're trying to like educate other people on how to play the instrument, it's fake, it doesn't have like a lot of significance. And that's also not to say you can't talk about God and religion, or you can't talk about music when you've not done XYZ, or you've not read every single book of the Bible, like things like that. No, that's not what I'm saying. I always and will forever always encourage and believe you should talk about what you're passionate about, whether that is faith and Christianity and the truth about Jesus and salvation, or if it's anything else of the topic, like music or things like that. I encourage you to talk about that and educate people and influence people in any way you can. But remember, don't, give a message or carry like this facade to a person or an audience when in reality you aren't even that facade you're putting on. Like, don't act like, oh yeah, I'm so spiritual, but it's like you've not, and you're teaching a lesson on something too. You're teaching a lesson on determination, but it's like you don't know a thing about being determined. Like, you've sat in your bed for 2 weeks straight and done nothing. Or you're talking about, religion, and it's like you haven't even ever sat down and personally and had a Bible study or prayed to God, or had started a foundation and relationship with God between you and Him. You can't talk about a relationship you have with God and the importance of God in itself when you don't even have that with yourself. You can't help other people if you can't help yourself. You can't teach other people if you yourself don't even know the material. You know what I mean? I think that makes sense. Just being honest, having integrity. That's why for example, in my case, I wanted to be honest and sit here, and I'm not always gonna come up on here and be like, yes, yeah, like praise God. It's like sometimes you just get distant. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes you lose motivation. Other times, I don't know, just it's hard. It happens, and I'm not gonna sit here. And I had a whole nother idea and message planned that I wanted to talk about today, and I just kind of scrapped it for another month, another day, another week, because I don't want to give that message. It's a great message, but I don't want to give it when I just feel like I've not fully connected or read and been connected with God in general to share that message. I want to feel right and feel connected with God, and not even just feel, because you can't always trust your feelings. I want to be able to say, yes, I feel confident with this message. I know what I'm talking about. And again, sometimes it's like, you know what you're talking about, but if you're not one and connected with what you're doing, sometimes it's hard to actually put passion behind what you're talking about, because you yourself don't even have feelings about it in the time, and you want to give a true and emotional message, again, whether or not it's talking about religion or something else. I want to be able to talk about what I'm saying and feel good about it, and to not even feel, but to know, like, yes, this is right, this is what I'm doing, all my ducks are in a row. So instead, I decided to talk about something that's real, something that's relatable, and that's that sometimes you're just not going to feel connected, but it doesn't mean you're not. Let me get that clear. You can never lose your salvation, ever, even if you become distant with God or decide you don't want to believe in Him or follow Him anymore, or just in general, like you wake up one day and you don't feel connected or really strong with Him. It doesn't mean you aren't. Sometimes feelings change, and that's why we can't trust our feelings. It doesn't change. You are still connected, you are still saved, and He still loves you. That never changes. Don't fall into the trap of, if I just had this one thing, or, this person's always so happy. If I could just, understand or be like them, things would be better, or this would be, or what, don't do that. It's exhausting longing for what others have. You have your own workload, and your biggest focus should be what you're doing and assessing if you're proud of what you're achieving. And this is, I think, really what defines success. I believe success is really objective and up to you, but that's a whole nother conversation. A verse I wanted to mention with that is Galatians chapter 6, verse 4-5. But let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone, and not in another. For every man shall bear his own burden. Also, comparison. I love this, because the thoughts of, if only I had, if I were, if I can, whatever, it's a never-ending cycle. I mean, why do you think rich people are typically the most unhappy? It's constantly longing for something you're just never going to get. Even if you do get whatever it is, maybe it's material, you're not actually going to be happy, because it's what comes from within. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, for we dare not make ourselves of the number, or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves, and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise. And this is a tricky verse. I know you guys are like, what did that just say? It's essentially saying it's not smart to compare ourselves to others just from an appearance, and we also should not be comparing our weaknesses and strengths. We all have our different strengths and weaknesses, and nobody has room to compare them or say they're better than another. So essentially, stick to what you're doing, and don't get so wrapped up in what Sydney's doing down the street. And if Betty posted on her Instagram today for the 112th time in a row, she posted her Instagram verse of the day or whatever. Because remember, social media isn't real, and these people that seem so spiritual, a lot of the time, sometimes they aren't. And if they are, don't get wrapped up in what they're doing. Think about you. Everyone's different. I think a good metaphor I like to think of for this is when it comes to like marketing a product, you can't be selling a product but then using the same item, different brand, and still claim to use and represent the other brand of the product. Just moral of the story, never expect perfection or consistency because it's unrealistic, and at the end of the day, these distance patches will always continue to grow us and bring us closer to God and teach us more about ourselves and help us understand, what does it look like when we're in XYZ spot, and what do we turn to, and how do we behave? And I think we more quickly find our way to running towards God instead of running away from him and feeling whatever we feel, or wrapping ourselves into something else completely different that's worldly and is just not going to satisfy us, and it's only going to be a short-term help or solution. Being Christian and acting Christian are two different things. And yes, it's inevitable to slip away and to do wrong things and so on and so forth. But the important thing is what you do after and how you act on that situation after the fact of what's happened. Are you going to run away, or are you going to run towards? And if you found that you ran away, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel bad. It happens to the best of us. It's happened to me. It'll happen to you at some point. And all you can do now is just maybe try and start with a conversation. Talk to him. Tell him how you're feeling. Ask him how he's doing. Open the Bible. Read a singular verse. Don't give up on yourself. Lock in and remember, this is the real reality. This is normal, and this should not be shamed on. These distant patches make us stronger. Don't deny them. Don't ignore them. Don't be ashamed of them. Own them. And grow. And remember, it won't be this way forever. It won't always be, feeling, sad and disconnected. There's always going to be ups and down periods where you feel really good and other times it just feels like nothing. Or it feels really sucky. Your situation's going to change. And you're going to get through it. But you're going to cling and run to God no matter what you're feeling, because there's a difference between feeling connected and still knowing you're connected, whether or not you feel that way or not. I hope this helped you guys and gave you some kind of encouragement. I hope it was relatable and you guys can understand and really see the true reality and how things really are sometimes. It's not always rainbow and sunshine, and I'm not going to sit here and act like, everything's always perfect for me. It's not. Life happens. And I hope just these little tidbits helped and advised you or guided you in some way to get back on that horse and to not run away anymore, because God is waiting for you open-armed and wants to help you. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please let me know. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Why Are You Afraid, the podcast, and I will see you guys very soon.